Hi, this is Matt with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we'll be showing you how to repair your appliance. Remember, anytime you work on an appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. In this video we're going to show you how to change out the Whirlpool dryer heating element. It's going to be a very easy repair and should only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can click on the link below or get it at AppliancePartsPros.com. When you open up the package, you're going to get the new heating element. The heating element is what creates the heat inside the dryer to dry your clothes. The main reason to be changing it out is if the element is shorted out and the dryer is not getting hot. In order to get to the part, we have to take the dryer apart. First thing we're going to do is use our 1/4" nut driver to remove the 2 screws on the top so we can take it off. Once you have the screws out, we can pull the top off. All you have to do is pull it back till it stops, and then you can lift it off the dryer. Now we're standing in front of the machine. To get the console off, we have to release a tab on each side. All you have to do is press on it and then lift out on the console on that side. And there's one on the other side. Once you have those released so the bottom of the console is kind of swung out, there's 3 locking tabs along the top that we have to lift up on to release. Once you have those off, we're going to just carefully set it down right here, and then we're going to reach in with a small flathead screwdriver and release this locking tab for this wire harness so we can pull it off the control board. Once you have that out, then we can pull this panel off and set it aside. Next thing we're going to do is remove this panel that holds the control board, and we're going to lay it over the back of the dryer. Once you have the screws out, we're going to very carefully lift this up and drape it over the back of the dryer so it's out of the way. You just want to be careful you don't bang the control board against anything. Once you have it out of the way, we can take the rest of the dryer apart. Next, we can take out the 4 screws that hold the console mounting plate on. We're going to use our 1/4" nut driver and take them off. Once you have all 4 screws out, you can lift it out and set it aside. We have to take off the access panel on the bottom of the dryer. We're going to use our 1/4" nut driver to remove the screws. Now that we have the screws out, we can lift the panel out. All you have to do is pull the bottom forward and lift it off. We're going to use our 1/4" nut driver again, and we're going to take off the 2 lower screws. In order to get the front panel off, we have to take the door switch wiring harness off. There's a little locking tab right here holding it onto the ducting. We're just going to lift that up and take the wire harness out. Once you have it released, then we can pull the wire harness out and use a small screwdriver to take the plug apart. Once you have the wiring harness disconnected, we can continue to remove the front panel. With the door switch disconnected below, we're going to open up the dryer door and use our Phillips screwdriver to take out these screws that hold the lint screen housing to the front panel. Once you have those 2 screws out, we can close the dryer door, and then we can go back to our 1/4" nut driver and take the rest of the panel off. Now we can take the top screws off with our nut driver. When you're taking the second one off, you want to make sure you kind of hold the front panel on so it doesn't fall off. And once you're ready to pull the front panel off, behind this front panel on this bulkhead, there's a seal that you want to be careful that you pull this front panel off slowly so you don't tear the seal. If your dryer has these moisture sensor bars, you're going to have to disconnect the wire harness just like we did the door switch. So take a small flathead screwdriver and pull it apart. Once you have it disconnected, then we can remove the screws that hold the front bulkhead in. We're going to take out these two that hold the duct on here. On these 4 screws, we're going to take the bottom 2 out, but just loosen the upper 2 up so we can lift the bulkhead off. Now that we have both upper ones loose, we can lift the bulkhead out of the dryer. After you have the bulkhead off, if you see a bunch of lint like this built up in your blower housing, you want to make sure you clean that out. Dryer lint is a big cause of house fires, so you want to get it cleaned up so you don't have any problems in the future. Now that we have the front bulkhead out of the way, we can reach in and take the belt off the pulleys. We're going to reach in with our left hand and grab the idler pulley and pull it towards the outside of the machine so we can take the belt off the pulleys. Now that we have the belt off the pulleys, we can use it to lift up the drum and guide it out of the dryer. Now that we have access to the heater element, we're going to take off the 2 wires. Remember, we got the red and white one on the bottom and the red one on the top. We're going to use a flathead screwdriver to help pop them off. Sometimes they're tight. Once you have those out of the way, we're going to remove the high limit thermostat and the thermal fuse. We're going to use a 1/4 inch socket and a ratchet to take these screws out. If you drop a screw, don't worry about it. We can get it later. Once you have them both out, you can reach in and grab the screws if you dropped any. Then we're going to use our ratchet again to take out this screw that holds the heating element assembly to the floor. Once you have that screw out, we can take out the heating element. There's a latch kind of that goes up at an angle on the other end, so we're going to lift it up and then pull it out. Once you have it out, you can pull it out of the dryer. Here's the old heating element next to the new one. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can get it at appliancepartspros.com. Of course, we have to take the heater out of its housing, so we're going to use our 1/4 inch nut driver and take these out. Once you have all 4 screws out, we can lift the top cover off the heating element and set it aside. Then we can lift the old heating element out and put the new one in. Once you have the new heating element in, we can put the top back on and use the 1/4-inch nut driver to put the screws back in. Now that we have the heating element housing put back together, we can put it in the dryer. To put the heater housing in, all you have to do is line it up so that tab goes up into the exhaust duct, and then set it down so the base rests on the bottom of the dryer. Make sure it's no wires underneath it. And then we can use our socket again to put in the screw that holds it to the floor. Now that we have the heating element mounted, we can put the thermal fuse and the high limit thermostat back on. To put these back in, all you have to do is line them up and put the screws in. We're going to put the top one in first. And then we can put the bottom one in. Now we can reconnect the wires to the new heating element. Remember, the red and white one was on the bottom. And the red one was on the top. All you have to do is plug them in, make sure you get good connection. And now that you have the heating element installed, we can put the dryer back together. Now we can put the drum back in. All you have to do is lift up by the belt and guide it into the dryer. Then you can set it on the rear rollers. Now that we have the drum in place, we can set the belt down. You want to make sure it goes where the wear mark is, and you want to make sure that the ribs go against the drum. Now that we have the drum back in the dryer, we can reach in and route the belt through the pulleys. Remember, we're going to reach in with our left hand and pull the idler pulley over towards the side of the dryer so we can route the belt through the pulleys. Now we can put the front panel on. We're going to line up the blower housing with the blower wheel and then lift up the drum so the rollers go on. And then we can lift it up and put the bulkhead back on the screws. Now that we have the front bulkhead on, we can use our 1/4-inch nut driver to put the rest of the screws in. We're going to first put in the 2 gold screws down at the bottom. Now that we have the blower housing screws in, we're going to put in the bottom screws on the panel and tighten the upper ones down. Now that we have the front bulkhead on, we can put the front panel on. To put the front panel on, you're going to line it up with the screw holes and hold it in place while we use our 1/4-inch nut driver to put the screws in. Now we can put the screws on the bottom. Now that we have the front panel on, we can open up the door and use our Phillips screwdriver to put in the screws that hold the lint housing to the front panel. With those two screws installed, we can close the dryer door, and then we can reconnect the wire harnesses underneath. First one we're going to do is the door switch. So we're going to reconnect these two connectors. All you have to do is plug them in so it gets a good connection. And then we have to route this through this clip right here and lock it in place. Once you have the wires in there, you can just squeeze it and it should hold everything together. Then we can reconnect the wire harness for the moisture sensor. To reconnect the moisture sensor, we're just going to reach up and grab the other wire harness. And same as the door switch, we're just going to line them up and lock them together. Once you have the moisture sensor wiring harness reconnected, we can put the access panel back on. All you have to do is line it up and push it up into place. Once you have it in, you can hold it while you grab your nut driver and put the 1/4-inch screws back in. With the access panel back in place, now we can go up top and put everything else back on. Next, we can put in the control panel support frame. We're just going to set it in place, and we're going to put in the 2 screws that hold it in on the front. Then we can put in the ones on the top in a second. Now we can put in the screws on the top. Now that we have the front panel in, we're going to swing this panel that holds the control board on over and line it up so we can put the screws in. Once you have it lined up, you can use a 1/4-inch nut driver again to put the screws in. Now that we have the electronic board mounted, we can put the control panel back on. To put the control panel back on, first we're going to feed the wire through the bulkhead panel, and then we can lower the console into place, and you have to line up the tabs and then push it in to lock it into place. And you want to make sure that the tabs on each end go through and lock in place. Once you have it on, then we can grab the wire harness and plug it into the control board. Once you have it in, give it a tug to make sure you get a good connection. Then we can put the top back on. To put the top on, all you have to do is set it down so the lip goes right there in that channel, and then set the top down and then push it in so it locks into those tabs. Now that we have the top on, we can use our 1/4-inch nut driver to put the 2 screws in to hold it down. Now that we're done repairing the appliance, we can plug it back in and take it for a spin. Thanks for joining us for another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. Check out our other repair videos on our site, Facebook, and YouTube.